Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Tougies Take podcast. I'm the namesake of this very series, joined as always by my buddies here. The guys, the fellas, Sin for the win and Endo are here. Endo is back after missing the last show due to shoveling-related exhaustion. How you feeling this Friday, though, Endo?
A little reference for the past 3 days. Don't sign up to do snow removal. Do you mind if I go on a little tangent about what happened, basically?
Yeah, and we'll see how long the average listen time sustains for this episode.
Okay. I'll try to be very quick. So this will be like 10 minutes. So Sunday night, I get a call from my mom of all people. You've met her on what is it called? Mother's Privilege.
Yeah.
Episode.
We sure have.
Yeah, episode whatever. Episode mother of Mother's Privilege. And she says, we need you to come shovel. Come out, bring whatever, bring a jacket, basically be warm. Turns out that it was the biggest snowfall that we've had so far this year. We had roughly 2 to 3 feet of snow. So like 30 to 60 centimeters. But it wasn't like quick. It wasn't like regular snow. It was like quick. Like you'd clean off like one section of wherever you're shoveling and be back like instantly. Day one went from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. Was told to go back out again because it still was fucking snowing. Show up again 10 p.m. all the way till 4 p.m. the next day. So basically I put in roughly 25 hours of shoveling and like 30 hours of like actual like livable time. And before the podcast, I told these guys, I said, hey, listen, I might be able to do it. I'm going to try my best to get some energy up. And I slept right through. I woke up at it was 8 o'clock. And that's when you guys were like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not. It was hell. It was hell. Never recommending it again. But I'm going to be doing more snow removal on Sunday.
Riveting. They should make a snow shoveling simulator. Deke Slayer will play it.
I was going to say, is there not on Steam right now, shoveling simulator? We got to look this up.
Oh
Shoveling
God.
Simulator. There is a version of it on Roblox.
Yo.
So
that's the real metaverse.
Shout out to Snow Shoveling Simulator.
Oh my God.
Roblox.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And if those were wondering, it was commercial, not residential. Fuck, I'm not gonna do residential. It's crazy. That's where the money is.
Gotta work for those big corporations.
Yeah, big corpa. Give me that.
Shovel the sidewalks.
Yeah. And die
God.
trying.
Well, at least I can relate to Endo's story. Sin in nice little sunny California cannot, for the most part, I'd imagine.
No, we just choke on smoke in the summers.
Jesus. All right. Well, speaking of spreading like wildfire, how about the craze that's sweeping the nation? It's known as taking care of your balls, and you can take care of your balls thanks to our friends at Manscaped, the official presenter of this podcast, of course. Make sure to use code Tougie at checkout for 20% off your order and free worldwide shipping for a variety of fantastic products to make sure, of course, that you have the right tools for the job. You can shave your balls with impeccable efficiency with the Lawnmower 4.0. You can wear the most comfortable boxer briefs you will ever wear, and so much more. Pesky nose and ears hairs, multiple ears. You have 2 of them at least, unless you're Mick Foley. You got 1.5. That's a wrestling reference, everybody. That Endo gets. Sin did not.
No,
I
know Mick Foley.
Okay, at the very least, Manscaped. Code Tougie at checkout. Do it. Get it done. Do what you got to do. Take care of yourself, even in this rather ridiculous winter we are currently undergoing. And of course, as well, make sure to check out our other partner, of course, Thrive Fantasy. Currently, again, you can click the link in the description, no matter what you are listening or watching on, to be able to use code Tougie to get an instant match for up to your first $100 invested. Thrive Fantasy, prop up today with the #1 outlet for player prop bets. Again, at Thrive Fantasy. Use code Tougie for both them and Manscaped. And not only will your balls will thank you, we'll thank you, and balls. Gentlemen, with that, to kick off today's show, for the first time in a while, we don't have an outrageous amount to talk about, so we get to dip back into viewer questions. And there is a viewer who has been wanting a question asked for a very, very long time, and we are terrible, especially me, terrible for not getting to this yet. But we will get to it today, thanks to Scroopy Noopers, which is my new favorite name.
I'm pretty sure it's a Rick and Morty reference, and I appreciate that to the fullest extent.
What is your ideal run to a Stanley Cup victory? Which 4 teams would you like your favorite team to beat? As a Ducks fan, his is Los Angeles, Nashville, Chicago, and Detroit. Screw you, San Jose, apparently. I want to start off with Endo because I feel like this has been discussed a ton in terms of the Leafs fandom as to not just winning, but the ideal way to win to make it so sweet, and I know it involves Boston. So, Endo, your ideal cup run, and I'd imagine the Western Conference team could be a little bit tough, but then again, other Canadian teams.
Okay, so here's our ideal scenario right here. So, it's this year. I don't know how the hell the Habs do it, but they make it into a playoff spot.
All right, we'll see you next year because that's not happening this year.
Hear me out. This is outrageous. This has never been thought before. They make it to a wild card spot. We smoke a Habs pack and we just dominate them because they don't have Carey Price because he's out for injury again. So he's completely probably done for the rest of the season. God rest your soul, but thank you. You're not playing. Thank you. Good night. Then we go on and we play Boston, and then we lose. And then we lose.
Again.
Then we lose. But listen, we made it out of the first round. That's progress, boys. That's progress.
That is your Stanley Cup.
That's our Stanley Cup.
That's
our Stanley Cup.
All right.
You're gonna have people rioting outside your fucking condo, being like, "Yeah, we won." It's like, shut up. You're like 12. Go away.
Sin, your ideal Stanley Cup.
LA. Beat LA in the first round by like a sweep or something hilarious. Beat Vegas in the second round because fuck Vegas. This one's a little bit tougher in the conference finals, but probably has to be Chicago. Yeah. Just because they've stopped us from going to the Stanley Cup before. They're now, as we know, an actual very, very scummy organization. And it'd feel great to stick it to them. And then, in the Stanley Cup Finals, man, this is the tough one. The last round.
Yeah.
Like, who would I want to beat in the Cup Finals? We don't have tons and tons of history with the Eastern Conference teams, but I would want to beat some... You know what? Actually, they're over there now. Probably Detroit, simply because of the history between San Jose and Detroit in the playoffs. We used to play them a lot in the playoffs, actually, and it would kind of go back and forth. So maybe Detroit. If not that, it'd have to be one of the large ass market Canadian teams just to enjoy the Twitter meltdown that would follow.
I feel like that's a lot of people's answer. If you're a fan of a Western team, is to face Detroit in the final because of that history.
Yeah,
so I don't think you're alone on that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
For me, obviously, again, this is the ideal run, so I'm not basing it necessarily off of the standings for
me neither. Clearly,
season. Yeah,
Herb's Leafs do it. It's okay. We're used to it.
I don't view Toronto there. The funny thing is, like, I don't like the Boston-Montreal rivalry. Really, isn't as kind of crazy as it used to be. So it's like I want to side with Montreal or Toronto in round one, but like I at this point, like, I'm sorry, dude, it's been almost a decade. We are coming up on 9 years removed since the comeback. 9 years, man. Like, I'm over the jokes, even though of course they met in the playoffs within the past 4 to 5.
Yeah. Did I tell you guys that was like my birthday present? Yeah. What? I was like, the comeback game. That was the birthday present that I got from Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment. Just fucking, yeah.
You went to that game where Boston came back?
Or was it on your birthday?
It was on my birthday. I decided, hey, I'm gonna watch a Leafs game. I'm gonna watch a Leafs game. You know, I think at the time I was doing a youth exchange program. People were coming from Vancouver, like I'm over here, experience what Toronto has to offer, and we showed them the L. But then they later showed themselves how they could take an L even worse by turning the city into a fucking landfill for one night. That was the same year that they had the riot.
So, for me, I don't care about the order in the East. And again, I can shout out Toronto, I can shout out Montreal, even the New York Rangers in a way. Washington, because that's a more intense rivalry than most that Boston have going on right now. I'd still put Washington up there. Carolina, because Carolina have kind of usurped Washington as a team that just for whatever reason beats the ever-loving hell out of Boston. And Tampa.
Makes sense.
I feel like you are looking again at Washington, who is coming off of this era of dominance against Boston. Carolina is kind of starting one, it feels like, despite the fact the Bruins beat them in the conference final not all that long ago. And then Tampa, like, you know the gif from Tom and Jerry of just Tom getting spanked ruthlessly?
Yeah.
Like, you could put the logos for Tampa and Boston's just getting walloped the entire time. It's been bad. It's been bad. And I feel like that would be the most satisfying way for the Bruins to make it. There are a lot of ways, though. And then the Stanley Cup final. I have talked about how sweet I think it would be for a 7-game series against Nashville or Minnesota after the games I've seen them play against the Bruins in the past week and a half or so. At the same time, a rematch with St. Louis or Chicago would be great. Or Edmonton to watch the meltdown. There is a continued meltdown in Edmonton as well. It would be revenge for over 30 years ago now. But those are the matchups that come to mind. But admittedly, I think you can tell, like, there's not that dead set, screw these 4 teams, I want to beat them for sure. It's tough. The Bruins are in a really weird spot. And I think it's because that separation with the Canadian teams for like the past year and a half, and again, the rivalry with Montreal has really been kind of poor ever since, again, the Habs beat them in the playoffs in the first round, and Milan Lucic threatened to murder Dale Weiss, and then the Habs kicked the ever-loving hell out of the Bruins at the Winter Classic at Gillette Stadium. Hey, make sure to check out the video Endo and I did on that, where I ranked the Winter Classics. Phenomenal editing from Endo Mills, and I do think you guys would very much enjoy that video if you haven't checked it out. Support the fellas as they try different stuff other than just EA NHL content, Sin included, with some of the stuff he's been doing recently. But solid question, I think, all things considered. And intrigued. Let us know if you're listening to this. Twitter, Discord, YouTube. Let us know what your list would be. Next question comes from AJ. And I feel like we've had questions like this before, but hey, whatever, we'll go for it. Who is the most underappreciated player in your favorite team's history? Tuukka Rask.
Yeah.
It's the easiest one every time. And AJ edited this question to say right now, still Tuukka Rask. It wouldn't have been a month ago, but it's pretty much always Tuukka Rask. Sin, who do you got? Your most underappreciated player in Sharks history.
Oh, it's not in history. It's right now. I thought
No, it is in history. He edited the question. Originally, it was right now. You could answer for right now, too, if you wanted to.
Shit, man. It's tough. It's really kind of tough.
Why do I feel like it would be somebody along the lines of like a Justin Braun, who was never the biggest name on the team, but was kind of instrumental to that team being as good as they were for as long as they were?
Yeah, he definitely was. Him and Vlasic were a really tremendous shutdown pairing. But for like individual effort, it's a tough question. It's very.
I'll give you a second and turn it over to Endo.
Yeah, go to Endo. I need to think.
Yeah, I need to think too, because I have like one of the. I have a team that's from the original 6. I could say like what?
I mean, so here's why I thought we answered this before, because I could have sworn when we were talking about Dion and his retirement that we talked a lot about, obviously, how underappreciated Phaneuf was for being the frickin' heat shield for the team because they were trying to fit a square peg into a round hole with him.
Mm-hmm. I would also say maybe undertreated and disrespected, I think, at one point.
William Nylander.
William Nylander, because he got so much flack because of that contract. And I understand why they did it. And everyone was like, oh, the year after he took so much time off that he's like terrible. I'm like, well, technically speaking, when a player doesn't have a contract signed or under RFA, they still can't train with the team. They're basically just like waiting in limbo. Like you can do practices and all that back overseas, but you can't practice with teams you're not really signed with them yet. And he had a bounce back after, and he's clearly one of the top players on the team right now. But I think my weird one is gonna be like Phil Kessel in terms of like treatment, because he was like, oh, we love this guy, he's great, and after it was like he's a bum, whatever, this and that. And the first thing he did when he won the Stanley Cup with Pittsburgh, he brought the sick kids on in Toronto. That's a good quality guy right there, because he knew that Leafs weren't gonna bring in the sick kids, so he might as well bring in himself.
Zin, anybody have officially come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few, I think, but honestly, for a player from the past, like just someone who was underappreciated, I think would be Ryan Clough. A lot of people don't remember how good this guy was in his prime. He would score goals. He'd fight. He did literally everything. Like he was the prototypical, at least of the past, the power forward, and it, brought so much to the Sharks game at the time. Like in the playoffs, especially, he would score goals, rack up points. He'd hit people. He was fighting anyone, and he would rarely lose. Man, he kicked George Parros' ass one time. And Scott Parker.
God bless him.
Yeah.
God bless him.
Yeah, he beat the shit out of George Parros. And for reference, I mean, George Parros and Scott Parker used to be like going at it, and then Jody Shelley eventually when he was on the Sharks, because obviously Parros was in Anaheim for a very long time as their enforcer. Like that was, and it would go back and forth. Sometimes Parker would beat, but Clough fought him once and just kicked the ever-loving shit out of him. Parros didn't land a single blow. Everything was blocked. Anyway, Ryan Clough was just one of those guys who I think was severely, severely underappreciated. And right now, I would honestly say Erik Karlsson's underappreciated. Like ridiculous. Everyone, like there's this huge portion of Sharks fandom that's just like, fuck that guy. Fuck him. He's not, and I get it because of the contract, but he drives play to an unreal ability. And the fact of the matter is there's not enough finishers in San Jose. He would have so many more points if Sharks just had more people who could score fucking goals. It's still insane what he's able to do. Is he what he was in Ottawa? Maybe not necessarily, but he's figuring it out now with his ankle. He can't really be as agile as possible. He's still got all the other stuff. So that would probably be my other one. I think he's really underappreciated.
Honestly, I think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, the problem is, right, when they acquire Erik Karlsson, it's right back towards the cup. Here we go. And it wasn't that out of the gates. And it's not entirely Erik Karlsson's fault. Like, no one will say he was great out of the gates. Like, he has definitely been better, especially this season, than in the past. I do want to mention, I looked up that fight between Ryan Clough and George Parros on Hockey Fights, which they do have a voting system.
Nice.
This fight happened on January 21st of 2010. There were a total of 197 votes. 192 of them said Ryan Clough won the fight.
Yes.
So that shows you just how one-sided that particular scrap was.
Yeah, the other 5 are George Parros on different accounts. He's just sitting there fucking no.
All I can imagine is George Parros doesn't do anything at the DOPS because he's too busy review bombing fights on Hockey Fights.
Oh, in the glory days, yeah.
That makes complete sense.
George, someone slewfoot someone again. Can't talk right now. Just spin the wheel.
Looking at this fight.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this fight.
The wheel's weighted. Spin it.
Jason Strudwick kicked my ass. I can't have people thinking that. Absolutely beautiful.
That's gold.
AJ, thank you very much for the question. And our final question comes from John. He said, after finding out that Darren McCarty is now doing pro wrestling, what current players would make the jump? Brad Marchand.
Ryan Reeves.
God, give me Ryan Reeves.
The Muffin Man.
AEW, give me Ryan Reeves and Powerhouse Hobbs. I'm here for it.
Oh my god.
God. It's got to be Brad Marchand just for the shit-talking ability. And we'll talk about Brad Marchand a lot today. He's got to be up there. He's got to be up there for sure.
Yeah.
Sin, anybody come to mind for you? It's a bit of a tough one.
It is a tougher one. I'm trying to think. It's so hard to find people with freaking personalities in the NHL.
Well, that's the thing, right? Do you go for the physical beast? Do you go for the personality side of things?
Oh my god.
You know?
Yeah, I
PK
got.
Subban. Sorry, PK Subban for the fourth member of the New Day. It would work. It would work. I'm sorry for interrupting, but it's so perfect.
God. Frickin' big meaty men slew footing other big meaty men.
And then instead of bootios and slewios, it's just
Jesus. Okay.
Okay, we're getting a little too crazy here, I think, personally. Oh yeah, sorry.
I'm just trying to buy it some time.
No, that's fine. I mean, I agree. It's like Marchand would be great. He'd be an excellent heel. And yeah, what else could you say? I mean, he already plays the part of a heel oh so well in the NHL, and you can totally tell he's legitimately a cool guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he loves being that guy. Can it be? Yeah. Shit, man. Honestly, I know he doesn't. Well, it's Darren McCarty. He doesn't play right now either. Matthew Barnaby. Matthew Barnaby.
Yeah. He would have been. I mean,
either that
then you
or
could get
Darcy
down to the
Tucker,
list of
because Darcy Tucker,
Sean
had that.
Avery.
Sean Avery too. Oh my god,
John
yeah.
Avery.
Just every
Oh my
agitator in
God.
existence, but especially Darcy Tucker with that fucking face he had, that punchable ass face, Darky. Little lipstick thing he would do.
And I will say, he's not an agitator. However, in terms of the most fit, Rod the Bod.
Oh my god.
Vince McMahon would lose his mind seeing Rod Brindamore shirtless. If I will say this, if you have never seen Rod Brindamore shirtless, holy shit, that guy is shredded. Even to this day, this recent,
yeah, he's
like
ripped.
literally, if you search Rod Brindamore, the number one thing that pops up are memes of him shirtless. One of which says, Jason Mazzotti, goaltending coach, quote, he loves to flex. Like, it's just Rod Brindamore jacked to this day.
I love to
So,
pump
yeah,
up.
let's.
Wow, yeah.
I love to pump up.
Dude, he has like always been yoked. It's insane.
Yeah.
Oh my
But yeah,
god.
if you're ever wondering where the Rod the Pod name came from,
Oh my god.
because the guy is jacked.
If there's one thing though, if it's Sean Avery in the ring, it has to be with him on the bike. Calling everyone a prick. You stupid prick.
That's
Well, see, Sean Avery would be the perfect wrestling manager because he could wave the stick to distract the referee while his client cheats.
yeah. He's just gonna come out with his fucking little top hat or his what do they call that shit?
His
Fedora
special
on.
move is called the sloppy second.
Hey. He'd be a great guy for the mic. Just
Oh
that
my
like
God.
droning like, are you guys kidding me right now? Your piece is Islanders fans, you fucking suck.
It's ridiculous. Oh, God. A gigantic thank you for the questions, everybody. Again, I always put up a post on Twitter. The Discord is another great place for particular viewer questions. Now, I do want to quickly segue ourselves towards a segment that I am going to label The Hockey World Sucks Sometimes. I don't know if we're going to go fully in depth with all these conversations, but again, I think there are three topics that, at the very least, it's garnering a lot of the conversation. So let's at least acknowledge them and, of course, move back on to laughing about dumb stuff such as Sean Avery being a wrestling manager. The first is the most recent incident to have come out, and that is that the AHL has announced that the San Jose Barracuda's Krzysztof Hrabik has been suspended 30 games as a consequence for using a racial gesture in a game against the Tucson Roadrunners on January 12th. The word is Hrabik imitated a monkey's movement towards a mama, who of course is a black man. It was spotted by the Roadrunners bench and confirmed via video of the game. This is not the first incident in the AHL alone involving Boko Amama. Of course, most famously, just about 2 years ago, almost 2 years to the day, there was the incident involving defenseman Brandon Manning, who was only suspended for 5 games, which is some people's takeaway. Hey, from 5 to 30, at least that's something. But yeah, we have another incident here. And I mean, like, obviously, this isn't even the first time this season, and obviously, I'm sure there have been a bunch of racial incidents that haven't been reported. But, you know, we started off this hockey season by having to mention another former Tucson Roadrunner in Jalen Smerrick, who was over with Donbass, and he ended up leaving the team after a racial incident there. So, again, it's a reason why I title things The Hockey World Sucks sometimes. I mean, this is... It doesn't matter who the hell this guy is, if he's a nobody or if he's one of the faces of the league. This is horrific. This is idiotic. It just so happens that it happens to be a 22-year-old undrafted guy who probably just punched your ticket out of North American hockey success. Not that you were tearing up the AHL anyway, so good job there, friend. Obviously, I mean, this applies for sin. It involves the San Jose organization. And Endo, you are quite outspoken in terms of incidents like this, obviously. You were literally sitting here, for those not watching the video portion, just rubbing his hands together, being like, can't wait to talk about this, and I know you were looking forward to as well. I can't say anything beyond, of course, what a fucking scumbag this kid is. I'm sorry, but man, people act like, oh, 22 years old, it's a kid, it's a learning experience. You're 22 years old, man. There is no excuse whatsoever. We need to stop saying, like, oh, 16, they're such a young person. 22, they're such a young... No.
They're old enough to know better. Plain and simple. Yeah. You're old enough to know the weight of that action. You're goddamn well old enough to know you shouldn't do that. And if it's even in your behavior in an anger moment or whatever the hell you want to call it, then there's something in you that is fucking racist. And another thing, it's always racially charged or racial gesture. It's a racist gesture. Why are they always trying to soften the language around it too? It's like they think it's going to reflect poorly on them. And guess what? It does, because you've let this go for too long. And it should honestly, at this point, be zero tolerance policy. I'm sorry. Like any other job, you get outright fucking fired for this. I made this point on Twitter. Any other job, if you do something like this, you're fired. You're gone. You don't get to work that job anymore. I don't care how good you are at it. You're not allowed to work at the company anymore. So
we talked about, if you have another point, feel free to interject again, then we'll throw it over to Endo.
It's just,
we talked about 2 weeks ago, the Hockey Diversity Alliance, and the video that they put out. I had to look it up. That was on January 8th. 4 days after this, you have an incident happening like this in the AHL. It's... what can you even say at this point?
And you have large hockey creators saying, mocking certain commercials like this, and say, "Oh my God, they've gone woke," and it's, yeah.
I mean, I'll say to that, and again, we'll hand it over to you here in a second. I mean, I'll say to that, the idea of, like, obviously you could get into that entire thing. Like, there are some people who try to just label anything that could be involved as woke or cancel culture as automatically a negative thing. Whereas, obviously, an incident like this, it's not a matter of being woke. It's not a matter of cancel culture. It is a matter of someone being a goddamn racist.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but the idea is like, oh, well, one racist incident doesn't make someone a racist.
It does.
If it doesn't, it pushes it pretty damn close to the line and much closer than you should ever want to be. Yeah. Endo Mills, your thoughts, sir?
All right, so here's something that I want to talk about as well. something that I found out is remember we talked about Evander Kane being on the Barracuda. This is a weird connection I'm going to get to. He was suspended from the team on the 10th, I believe, officially from the newspaper that went out said he was suspended from the team. Less than 48 hours later, this incident happens in the Barracuda organization. What the fuck? I'm pretty sure if Evander Kane was still there and he heard this happen, I'm pretty sure he'd smack the fuck out of his own teammate. Like, what are you doing? You, as a hockey player, you have the privilege. Remember, it's a privilege, not a right. A privilege to play a sport for fans, for people in the suits, you get to play a sport that you love. And to go out there and do some racial bullshit to someone else who's already had this done to him. Forget the fact that Imama's already had this done to him in the beginning. It should have happened regardless. Like, when you're upset, you don't just go make fun of the guy's ethnicity or make a racist gesture towards it or any sort of remark or whatsoever. It's not necessary at all. You can say, oh, it's a shit call. Yeah, fuck you, whatever. But to go after a guy just because why? I'm never going to understand that. And it's something that I never really understand, like, either growing up too. It's like, why do they hate me because I look different? God, I don't fucking know either. I still don't know this very day. But I think 30 games is the bare minimum of what they should be doing to him. This is definitely sending a message to the league, if not the hockey world, that this is not going to be appreciated and accepted at all whatsoever. The timing with all this is just like you can't make this up. This is life. And it sucks that this happened. Also, 2 years basically from the day that Imama had the incident happen with Brandon Matting. That was a 5-year suspension. I think that was still a little bit light as well. But now we clearly see the AHL just stepping their foot down and being like, you know what, we're getting this out of the game. And I did say that Harabik is supposed to be going through a racial training program as well. I believe the San Jose Barracuda also said they're going to go through that as well to remove that out of their vocabulary.
I mean, it's what they have.
It's words at this point. You could say you're going to do something and then actually do it. How many times have we heard that from things that we enjoy entirely? It's like, oh, we're going to remove this and work on this, and we're going to make it a better space for everybody. And then the stuff like this happens, and then nothing gets done. I would rather these brands and these companies, if they're not going to actually put the effort to do something into it, just be silent. Just don't even try if you're not going to make an actual effort into doing it. Don't say you're going to do something and then turn your head the other way and have us basically go, well, what the fuck are you doing, and having to call you out on this bullshit. Like, do these people not have any self-respect for these communities that they're trying to grow into the sport of hockey? How is this going to grow? How is this going to help someone who is maybe from certain areas and like, oh, I want to get into hockey? Well, this guy just got called the N-word on the ice. This guy just got called a monkey on the ice. How is it going to grow the game? It's not. It's just going to keep going back and back and back. And it's time for us to move on and just work together to make this a better space for everybody. That's my take.
It's obviously not just an issue limited to hockey. But when it happens on a hockey context, we are a hockey podcast, and it obviously needs to at least be brought up. Yeah, obviously we could get into so many, the fact that people are even trying to make a conversation out of this in terms of, oh, well, what if he's from Slovakia or Czech Republic and different.
That's the thing.
No.
Everyone knows.
My girlfriend's from Russia. I'm black. She's dating me. What's the difference? It's learned. It's not racism and shit like this is taught. There's nowhere in the world. If you just take one random person, put a random person over there, like, why do they look different? Oh, they're just that. You teach hate. There's nowhere where I've seen it's mind blowing. I have no words to explain how I feel about this because I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I already had an issue with someone else earlier today in regards to certain words also relating to racism about a lead developer for NHL 22 and certain comments about him about Rammer. And you didn't see this?
No.
Oh, so someone said that because they lost the game in Hut Champs, some very choice words for Rammer. I believe Rahil posted it on there on Twitter as well. Basically, very derogatory things towards Rammer and his wife, and Rammer for being Indian and certain stereotypes behind that, and basic general racist remarks. And then they doubled down, and then we got the account banned and all that. It's gross. There's no place for that stuff like that. And I'm glad that people are calling it out more. And your actions have consequences. Don't be a fucking racist.
Yeah, I'm looking at what you had mentioned, and the good thing is it looks like a good amount of the NHL community kind of rallied around that, and that person deleted their account already, which is promising. And obviously, it's just one of those things. It is very, very much a continued issue and habit, and even if it's something as small as someone in the EA NHL community sharing fucking very racist tweets and thoughts, to see them get snuffed out and to have them essentially get deplatformed, I'm all for, personally, very much so. The second thing, again, there is no great way to discuss this, so we're not really going to get into it. We're still kind of waiting to see what's going to happen, but there is all the stuff going on about Reed Boucher as well, which, again, only reason I wanted to mention this in relation to the other topics here is that you have this continued issue of, well, someone's talented in hockey. We can ignore this and let them continue to, thrive and have their chance, even though they've already blown it. And the reason why I mention this is because, and again, for anyone who hadn't read up on the Reed Boucher thing, right? It's a flat out mention, a sexual assault trigger warning here in a sense, but he did some really scummy shit as someone at an age who should have fucking known better, didn't pay for it then, probably isn't going to pay for it now. Why do I mention it? Because we still see stuff like this happen. Mitch Miller, the Arizona Coyotes, they draft him. Oh, he's actually a scumbag. We'll renounce the rights. He's still getting a chance. He's still playing in the USHL right now with is it the Tri-City Storm or something like that? Regardless, he is still getting an opportunity to further himself in the sport of hockey. This is a continued issue where you talk about the accountability from a racial sense. You talk about accountability from just being a general piece of shit sense. There is no goddamn accountability still, for the most part, in hockey. And obviously in other sports too. We kind of look at the NFL and be like, okay, where's the accountability and the conversation over how things have changed, where if something that happened a decade ago happened now, would it be handled the same way? And unfortunately with the NHL, Reed Boucher was drafted about a decade ago. The only thing that's changed with Mitch Miller is that the Coyotes renounced his rights, but he's still getting a chance in the hockey world without showing really any sort of remorse or having apologized, at least according, of course, to the mother of the man that was involved in that incident on the other side of that abuse. So that's all I wanted to mention, boys. If you don't want to speak to that at all, it is perfectly good and understandable. But again, it is something that's happening. It's another conversation that's happening, and I think it does tie in with the lack of accountability and the general bullshit that still persists in the hockey world.
There's just so much more that happens, and so much more that we probably don't know about, and that's just the unfortunate part. And it's as much as it sucks, as much as it hurts to read and see some of the details. It has to be said because it has to be brought to light, and yeah, that's all I really got to say. I mean, we've talked about this, these sort of things way too much. But again, it's necessary because it plagues hockey, and it's not freaking cancel culture to ask that these people get fucking held accountable, because that's what happens in the real world. It should. I'm sorry, not what happens all the time, but it should happen. And that's all we're asking for, is that people face the consequences.
And the final thing, again, in our little Hockey World Sucks Sometimes segment, is a follow-up in a story that came out about Jim Matheson following the pissy incident with Leon Draisaitl, where, again, accountability and someone being a scumbag yet still being given their chance to have the career that they earned because their talent. It's just bullshit. A story was told by George Laraque, former NHLer. And it has made the rounds in the aftermath of, again, that incident with Draisaitl, where Jim Matheson stirred up conflict between George and another former NHL enforcer, Brant Myers. Myers was recently out of rehab, and it was apparently his first game back. Jim Matheson claimed that Myers was talking shit about Laraque. So Laraque fought him that night, broke his orbital bone, and effectively ended Myers' career. George then called Myers and asked why he was talking trash, only to find out from Myers that he never said a damn thing about George Laraque. Laraque then went and asked Matheson, who admitted essentially to making it up. And this is somebody who is still allowed his goddamn platform. How are you even in this situation to be able to sass Leon Draisaitl because he won't fall for your bullshit tactics of trying to get a good answer of him lashing out at the media or throwing teammates under the bus so you have a good headline? On the ice, off the ice, scumbags in the hockey world are continued to allow to be scumbags. For the most part, it might be getting better in some regards, but holy shit, do we have a long way to go.
Yeah. That guy is, he's pretty awful. Most of his takes that I've seen. Most Edmonton fans that I know don't like him.
I have never seen his name brought up for a good take.
No.
Not once.
It's never. And I don't get how that person still has a job. Well, I know because of what you and I talked about last time, too. He is harvesting hate clicks, and that's what really the media has become. And that's what, oh, great, a scumbag will flourish in that. But yeah, that dude, to create a drama like that affects someone in that way, I don't get how the NHLPA wasn't all over that to remove Matheson from you. Literally, he essentially contributed to ending someone's career by stirring up drama, which wasn't true whatsoever, to get a story, to have something to write about. That's insane to me. That he's still allowed in the to have a press pass. After that, and not to mention the Draisaitl stuff, it's just gross.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring that up mainly so, you could give your thoughts on that and the Matheson thing in general since you missed the last episode.
Where do I start?
You don't have to if you don't want.
Okay, I'll try and be very brief with this, but I think Matheson's conduct during that interview and during that basically I'm not going to call it an interview. I'm going to call it harassment because it's basically him just trying to get a rise out of him for the sake of clicks. Where do I begin with how I feel about this? I think it's scummy. I will never agree with harassing a player or individual. Players do not have to give responses whatsoever. You could pull the Marchand Lynch and be like, I'm just only here so I don't get fined, which is the appropriate answer, I believe, in any sort of situation. Just tell them, you know what, I'm here. I'm just gonna say this because I'm not gonna take a fine. I'm here to play the sport. We're in a slump. What do you want me to say? You want me to say something bad so you get clicks on your title? Of course, that's exactly what you want, but I'm not gonna give you that because I don't have to do that. Technically speaking, players are paid to play games, do endorsements for the team, and fill out duties in such order. They don't really have to speak to anybody. They could be completely quiet, shell-shocked in the corner and do nothing. There are some obligations they have to do, but they don't have to fully do anything that media has or says for them to do. That's not on contract. And I think in this case, I'm all for Leon Draisaitl getting pissed about.
He didn't even really get pissed though. Leon was
he was just very dismissive.
Yeah, he was, and I don't blame him. He remained
dismissive.
Level-headed. It's Matheson trying to get something, and then Draisaitl simply wasn't.
Yeah, poor choice of words on my end, and I guess, you're right. I think it was terrible on Matheson's end to basically freak out that he wasn't getting the answer that he wanted, and he basically pouted like a little child. You're supposed to be a Hall of Fame reporter, and this is how you act with a I'm going to call Leon Draisaitl another generational talent because he's there. He's at that level of production that you could call him another talent, not on the same level as McDavid, but nearly at the same level.
So with that, we'll move on from some of the less fun topics, and we'll move on to some of the other stuff that we have to talk about. Again, it's always a rough transition, but God damn it, as long as this stuff keeps happening, I mean, I'd rather talk about it and bring the mood down than ignore it and have people be like, so you didn't think that was important enough to talk about? You know, that's why we talk about these things. We have one little general topic here before we move on to our day by day. And the reason was this team didn't play a game over the past 3 days since our last show. The word is out surrounding the Chicago Blackhawks that they have made everybody potentially available to trade aside from 3 players. Seth Jones, not overly surprising. They just acquired him, signed him to that big deal. That's not surprising. Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews. Gotta stick with those 2.
Sure.
Boys, your initial reaction, Sin, because you had a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's... The organization hasn't changed one bit. They're rallying behind Toews and Kane. Even after everything that went down, they're just, again, hoping it goes away. They're sweeping it on the rug. Aside from that, from a hockey-only standpoint, suggesting someone like Alex DeBrincat is not untouchable is fucking stupid. He's literally your best player. He is going to be the future captain. Toews is proven to the hockey world he is not a captain. He has proven that. And if the organization thinks otherwise, then again, terrible organization, which I guess we all know really well. But yeah, I'd take an Alex DeBrincat in a heartbeat. That's a kid who can play hockey. That's a kid who understands the weight of, the situations that we saw, like Kyle Beach and stuff like that, and how much that affects, and how to actually speak to it and, condemn those actions, because that's what's more important, not sticking up for and saying, oh, I didn't know this person was bad. Fuck off. That's not the issue. I don't get that, how the organization has him available. Like, that is insane to me. Like, what are you saying? You're going to try to win now? If you're going to have 30 plus guys as your new core?
I mean, I've sat here on this show for how long now and said, name him captain. He should be the next captain.
Yeah.
Alex DeBrincat has 32 points in 39 games this season with 23 goals, 5 points in his last 5, 10 points in his last 10. Just the idea of somebody that talented, that young still.
24.
Just the concept of you saying he is not 100% a part of our core and that you'd be willing to move him. Good God. The stupidity. like Dominic Kubalik, his name was thrown out there. Like, I can understand that. He hasn't had a good season by what you would expect from him. Yeah. Brandon Hagel, if you wanted to cash out on somebody who might not be able to duplicate what he's done, but at the same time, why wouldn't you stay loyal to a player like that? Like, oh, you've developed this guy to nowhere. We consistently see NHL teams trying to one-up one another as being those on the pedestal of dumbest GMs, dumbest front offices in the league. And as far as I'm concerned, Chicago's on the podium at the very least. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oilers are next to him with that meme, biting the metal and popping the champagne, but then they're on the lower one.
Oh my God. I forgot about that one. Holy shit.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. I forgot about that. My aspect here on this scenario is I wonder how Alex DeBrincat feels about hearing that out of all the things that you've said, and you've made bigger and better statements than guys who are the captain, assistant captain on certain issues that are happening in hockey, to basically be told by your management, probably unofficially, that you are tradable. That'd be a slap in the face, personally. True. To me.
But
100%.
At the same time, everyone should be tradable. In my opinion, here's the thing: if you're Connor McDavid and someone offers you like 5 first rounders, Well, maybe that's a bad example. Connor McDavid's probably the only untouchable person realistically in the NHL. There's a few, but like I heard in this interview, like from a GM and stuff, like he's like, or I think it was actually, what's that old fuck's name who used to GM for
Brian
Toronto?
Burke.
Thank you. Yeah, he was like,
I know.
yeah. He was just like, I heard him with his
Brian, I'm sorry.
with his undone tie. He was just like, I never tell a player that he's untradeable. You come in here, someone offers me, 3 first rounders for you, I'm trading. I'm like,
Is that the
that's
reason why?
Yeah.
Is that the
Anyway,
reason-
like,
Go ahead.
yeah, like that's the whole like, oh, these players are untradeable, man. You would trade a Patrick Kane for a fucking Austin Matthews or a Connor McDavid. Like, it's just, and it's essentially a rendition of everyone has their price. But so like from a hockey standpoint, you got to kind of understand that as a player, it's a business. You're going to get traded. It doesn't matter how important you think you are. If someone gives a deal too good to be true, you can get moved. But I do agree with kind of the what you were saying about like to DeBrincat being like, if he's not mentioned in that conversation after what he's done, that's kind of like, okay, interesting. I would, I don't know. I can see him leaving. I hope he does.
His morale just went from presence to neutral.
Solid franchise.
Hey, I don't even do franchise. That's all on YouTube.
God. So Chicago, good job. You're doing great. Keep it up, sweetie. We'll move on to our day by day. We'll start off, of course, this past Tuesday, and I had recorded a show there. And oh boy, Tuesday. Worth noting, first game that happened, at least it was on the scoreboard there. The Islanders beat the Flyers 4-3. The Flyers down to 13-8-8. We'll talk about them in a little bit as well because something interesting has happened there. But arguably the biggest game on Tuesday, the Carolina Hurricanes beat the Boston Bruins 7-1 on the night that Willie O'Ree had his number finally retired. By the way, shout out to Wayne Simmons, who put out a really touching post calling Willie O'Ree his idol on Tuesday night. I go back and forth on the idea of do you retire certain numbers league-wide or not. I think you could retire Willie O'Ree's number for what he meant. I mean, if you're going to go with that idea of, who deserves to have their number retired, I'd rather see Willie O'Ree's number retired than Mario Lemieux's personally. Yeah. But maybe that's just me. That's not disrespectful to Mario Lemieux, but think about what Willie O'Ree meant to the sport of hockey and again, what he did. Not only, of course, first black man in the NHL. He had a very long career as a professional player while blind in one eye. The man's a goddamn legend. Properly respect him, please. Rough transition, but I will say the Hurricanes didn't respect the proper legend in Tuukka Rask on Tuesday. Sorry for the transition. No.
First, trade him.
Oh, my God. So, again, it was 7-1. Kotkaniemi with 2 goals. Svechnikov, Teravainen both in double digits for goals. Seth Jarvis, strong rookie of the year. Nominee perhaps, his 7th of the year. Bergeron got the lone goal for the Bruins. Thankfully, the ass kicking was probably overshadowed thanks to Brad Marchand on Twitter or Instagram. Going at it with the Carolina Hurricanes. First, in response to him essentially being compared to Vinny Trocheck with the Prius Lamborghini comparison, which was interesting. And then, of course, there was a hit for Trocheck. It's not like he lit him up, but there was a hit for Trocheck. And, the Hurricanes kind of, gave it to Marchand a little bit, only for Marchand to then give it back to the Hurricanes. It's been a real interesting week. Brad Marchand versus the Hurricanes, one of the greatest Twitter rivalries of our time. But again, Rask, I don't even remember what the actual stat line was because I try not to pay attention to it. It was something like 5 saves or 5 goals against on 7 shots or something like that. It was rough and the team looked brutal. And I mentioned the Hurricanes kind of owning the Bruins. They have outscored Boston 10-1 in their past 2 games. 10-1, which is just something. Yeah, God. Carolina's a great team. And yeah, the Bruins got smacked a little bit. And you could say, levels to the game and everything, but it was a rough game. But the Bruins did bounce back. We'll talk about that in a little bit. For Marchand, I also want to mention the Twitter and Instagram game. called out Oilers fans who threw jerseys on the ice, saying, hey, don't be surprised when McDavid and Draisaitl don't want to stay. We'll talk about that in a little bit, too.
Oh, boy.
And then there was also the moment where, again, like the duality of Brad Marchand has probably been the most commented on thing in this past couple of days, as he had that moment in the pregame last night where he took a kid's phone who was by the tunnel and just walked into the tunnel, but the kid's phone, and like recorded a message for it. Just really weird, but kind of sweet. Like, Brad's had a really interesting week, is the best way to put it. And I choose to remember that than the Bruins getting absolutely destroyed by Carolina on Tuesday. Again, 7-1 the final score. Boys, there were like 6 different topics within one game there. I don't know if either of you have anything to mention, or we could just move on.
No, I mean, I just, like I kind of mentioned before we start recording, I think, yeah, Brad Marchand's just... Oh, I know, we actually were recording at the time. Yeah, I already kind of said what I wanted to about Brad Marchand, so...
And how do you feel about Brad Marchand at this point?
I think it's a unanimous feeling where you have Brad Marchand as an enemy, you hate him. You have Brad Marchand on your team, you love him. You definitely see the big like polar opposites in his personality, I guess, where you see he's brashful when he needs to be, but he's also humbling when he also wants to be as well. He's definitely one guy who's he's probably like a very awesome dude. And it's weird for me to say awesome dude, but like he's probably just like the coolest goddamn guy in the locker room. But when he has to hit that switch to go on, he's on. He's ready to go fight and be a pest on the ice. Off the ice, I'm pretty sure he's like one of the nicest guys there. But that's hockey. That's the quote Sean Avery of all people. You play a role sometimes, and he's found his role, and he's good at it, and he's sticking to it. He's sticking to his guns.
Definitely still crosses the line from time to time, though. I'll point that out, of course, so it's not universal praise for the man. Also on Tuesday, the Sabres beat the Sens 3-1. Want to shout out Dylan Cousins. Still one of the best nicknames in the game. 9th goal of the year. He's been pretty solid. Drake Batherson's 11th for Ottawa. Both these teams very, very far off the playoff pace, to say the least. The Washington Capitals beat the Winnipeg Jets 4-3 in OT. Alex Ovechkin's 27th of the year. 27 goals for Ovi, and I believe 40 games now for the Caps this season. What do you think he's going to hit? The pace is, in a way, slowed down a little bit, but he's on a 50-goal pace this year. Does he hit it?
45. I think he's going to hit 45.
Sin?
Yeah. I want him to hit 50, so yes. He absolutely is.
I think he's going to hit it, too. At the very least, I want him to. So, Tom Wilson scored his 12th. We'll talk about him in a minute. As well, for the Jets, got to mention it. Kyle Connor, 21st of the year. Trade in the Boston, please. Pierre-Luc Dubois, 16th of the year. That trade, like all the hype around the Dubois Line A deal has died down, obviously. And you can't totally just look at the stat line for Line A this year, because obviously, some time out this year that you can't blame him for, of course, with the passing of his father. But Dubois, at least from a stats perspective, has been really, really good for Winnipeg. And again, I think all the kind of hype and talk around that trade, about a year on now, right? I can't remember exactly when that trade happened, so it's understandable that the hype died down. But respect to Pierre-Luc Dubois. I actually want to look that up as to when that trade happened. January 23rd of 2021.
Wow.
So we're literally 2 days away from the 1-year anniversary of Line A being dealt to the Blue Jackets, which is still very, very bizarre, all things considered. The Vancouver Canucks beat the Nashville Predators 3-1 on Tuesday. The Canucks moving to 10-3-1 under Bruce Boudreau, outscoring opponents 39-30 in that time. Their 2.14 goals against per game in that time ranks first as of December 6th. So they're scoring more goals. Thatcher Demko is standing on his head. Bruce, there it is. I mean, aside from that, too, and I'll ask you guys a question about the Canucks in a second, I also want to shout out the Canucks signing Rachel Dory, who formerly worked with the New Jersey Devils, was a part of the Staff and Graph podcast, and she has now signed on with the Canucks, which is fantastic. In conversation with the Canucks, though, right now, they are at 39 points in 39 games. San Jose still occupies the second wildcard spot at 44 in 41. So the Canucks are 5 points back with 2 games at hand on the Sharks. With that, I don't think we can officially rule out Vancouver for being a potential playoff team this year. No, not at all.
The Pacific is an absolute horse race besides Vegas. Like, Vegas, in my opinion, is like really the only lock. Everything else in the Pacific.
Colorado.
But not,
you got to mention Colorado there, too. Oh, the Pacific. Sorry, I thought you meant the Western.
No. Yeah, the only lock in the Pacific is Vegas.
Yeah.
Everything else is just who the fuck knows.
Yeah.
Shout out to Seattle and Arizona, who are just completely out of it.
Seattle always, they always seem to beat all the good teams.
So, Endo, I imagine you are very much siding as well on the idea of Vancouver being alive. I mean, you were big on the Bruce. There it is.
Yeah. Definitely. You see the power of what a new coach can bring in with a new lifestyle. I've seen videos of just the general interactions between like Boudreaux and the players in practices being all energetic, but still being kind of strict and just being. It seems like there's a lot more loose air there, and players are allowed to be more creative, and it's showing on the ice. I mean, now they're even out of 500 right now, and for point percentage, and so far so good. Who knows how long this will last? If they make it into a playoff spot, like it's make even like a wild card at this point, it's sky's the limit. To me, I think that's a win for them in their organization.
The Montreal Canadiens beat the Dallas Stars 5-3, which is shocking to me. Christian Dvorak, 2 goals on the year. He's up to 7. For the Stars, Joe Pavelski, 16th goal of the year. I will continue to mention Joe Pavelski as much as I mention Jason Robertson, because I know it makes Sin smile to know that Joe Pavelski's doing well, even if it's for a different team.
Yeah. Yes, I miss him. And he's an awesome dude, an awesome player, and good for him that he's still finding success, even though the Stars are kind of in the same sort of spot that the Sharks are in record-wise.
Oh, so the Stars are 4 points back of the Sharks with 4 games at hand.
Well, let's trade for Pavelski.
There you go. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous just how tight that wild card race is to this point. And, of course, a lot of teams that could turn it around, and we'll talk about that in a minute, too. The Calgary Flames scoring one of their biggest wins in recent memory, beating the Florida Panthers 5-1. 2 goals for Sean Monahan, up to a grand total of 6. Whereas former Panther Sam Bennett scored the lone goal for the Panthers, his 16th of the year. Sid and I got to talk about Sam Bennett a little bit on the last show, if I'm not mistaken, and it is ridiculous just how good Sam Bennett has been as a Florida Panther. Make sure to catch last show where we talk about that stat line specifically. And the final game on Tuesday, the Lightning beat the Kings 6-4. Victor Hedman, 2-goal game. Stamkos has 19 on the year because, again, he is one of the best goal scorers of a generation. It's just a shame he has had the injury troubles, of course, that he has had. Wednesday, only a couple of games to talk about, but a few interesting talking points. Endo might enjoy one of these games, maybe not. The Coyotes beat the Devils 4-1. Devils down to 14-9-5. They're boned. The injuries they have, no Dougie Hamilton, they're boned. Do want to mention, though, in regards to this game, and this is from Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts, quote, I think Florida has let it be known that they're deep into the conversation of trading for Jake Chychrun and that they're prepared to do what it takes to get it done. Also mentions that the Kings, Ducks, Blues, Blue Jackets, and Rangers have inquired. The asking price, and I don't know if this was legit, but this was the asking price that was circulating the other day. Anton Lundell, Spencer Knight in the first, or somewhere in that realm.
What?
For Jake Chychrun. I cannot help but think that is ridiculous.
Was that Kevin
and certainly
Weeks
not
making
true.
that? Kevin Weeks say that?
I don't know who the hell said it, but Jesus,
He was the one with that
there's no
ridiculous
way.
price for Eichel or whatever it was. And he lost all credibility.
Obviously, there's no chance in hell that's happening unless you're getting Jake Chicken, Clayton Keller, and a first-round pick in return as well.
Chychrun isn't that good. He's solid. Don't get me wrong, but that's what you trade for, a number one defenseman. Chychrun is not that at all. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Anton Lundell's been great for them.
Yeah.
There's not a chance that the price is actually going to be that high. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see where he goes. I mean, I think it is kind of smart. I mean, for Arizona, you could talk about keeping him, but at the same time, by the time that rebuild is done, he's going to be pushing 30. And, well, is it better to just get assets, some, pretty solid assets, presumably, just nothing that ridiculous instead. So we'll turn it over to Endo for this next one. As the New York Rangers beat the Toronto Maple Leafs 6-3 on Wednesday, the Leafs blowing a 3-1 lead. Again, if I'm not mistaken, Ryan Reeves with his first 2 goals of the season. Adam Fox with a 2-goal performance. And Chris Kreider with his 25th of the year. On the flip side, at least Ilya Mikheyev scored again for his 6th of the year.
Yeah.
Endo Mills. Toronto at 24, 10-3, but there are some scary, scary signs there, sir.
Yeah, like Mikheyev going to free agency.
Mikheyev got a goal. Don't give a damn. Okay. If there's one thing I love is the consistency to leave not bad players, but lower echelon talent wide open in the goddamn slot. They always overcompensate and they always trap on the one side. It's as if we're playing Ishol and we're the Maple Leafs. Because it's just, oh my God. The fact that Ryan Reeves almost had a hat trick last night would have been hilarious. I think the greatest thing that came out of that game was the day after when everyone was posting the video of Ryan Reeves going around in Rangers practice asking people what the Super Bowl prediction was. And you can see his edge work. He's catching up with Chris Kreider, and he's keeping up with him. Ryan Reeves, basically an enforcer guy, is keeping up with one of the fastest guys in the league, Chris Kreider.
Wait, Chris Kreider's fast?
He's fast when he's crashing the net when he's running from getting a Super Bowl prediction. Because, yeah.
I think Chris Kreider has some wheels on him. Maybe not, obviously, like Matt Barzal territory, but I think he's underrated in that regard, perhaps, at least from what I've heard.
And so are Ryan Reeves' edges. Holy shit. If you look at that video, he's like legit, still keeping up with them. I'm like,
yeah, but he didn't have a stick either.
Don't matter. He's asking about the Super Bowl prediction. That's all he's got to do during games is just ask people for Super Bowl predictions, and he'll catch up with them for sure. But for the Leafs, terrible.
Yeah.
What more can Sheldon Keefe do? Get fired? Probably. But what is that going to really do anything? No. He's a good coach. Just they're not performing well. They just can't keep a lead. I'd rather them be down and then get the goal and then win. Because every time that I see them have a 3-1 lead, I instantly bet for the other team if I'm ever gonna bet. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to give you fucking $10 on there, whatever. And I've had decent payouts for it. And that's a sign that something needs to change. Please. But who am I kidding? I don't care until playoffs, right?
Yeah. You're trying at least.
I'm trying
I respect
so hard not to give a damn about these boys. But just you're no, okay? I already have enough heart issues as it is, okay? Just stop this.
I think the problem for Leafs fans is you want to just be like, okay, playoffs, they're going to make the playoffs. But at the same time, you're seeing these warning signs that if they don't clean it up and they make the playoffs, they're going to blow it again.
Yep. Spot on.
And shout out to Ryan Reeves. Further proof that, again, fourth liners, for the most part, still more talented than basically anybody that you know, the sport of hockey, even if they play a role. And on Wednesday as well, to rub salt into the wounds, the Avalanche shut out the Ducks 2-0. Francouz shutout, and Nazem Kadri scored his 15th of the year, continuing to be one of the league's top point producers, Nazem Kadri. It brings us to Thursday, and here's where we're getting into some of our big talking points here. The Bruins beat the Capitals 4-3. 2 goals from David Pastrnak. He's up to 18 on the year. Again, he has been on fire over the past month. Oh, yeah, he's up to 18 already now.
I remember when we were
wasn't that long ago.
15, 20, we were a solid amount into the season. He only had 4 goals.
Dude, 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks ago, we said he was on 8 goals.
Jeez. What a beast.
He has been absolutely unreal. And actually, now that I look it up, because Elite Prospects, again, one of my favorite sites on earth, I'll give them that free promotion. Why would I not? I do on Twitch almost every single night. I'm going to look up his last 10. All right. David Pastrnak in his last 10 games. Goal total, gentlemen. Take a guess.
For who?
David Pastrnak. How many goals?
In his last how many?
In his last 10.
He's got 2 hat tricks in this time. I know that.
Endo, your guess.
I'm going to go 14.
Okay, well, you both went over by Price is Right. Well, it is 10 and 10. He has 13 points in his last 10 games, 10 goals.
There you go.
You were. He also has 5 goals in his last 5. So, yeah, no, David Pastrnak has been just setting the world on fire as of late. Jake DeBrusk scored his 6th of the year. I'm going to talk about him in a little bit. And Charlie McAvoy scored the game winner, his 6th of the year, with 45 seconds to go. Thank God. Now, I've talked a lot about the Caps and the Bruins, and Ty Anderson on Twitter had this. The Bruins' last 10 games against Washington, they are 6-2-2 and have outscored the Caps 37-30. The previous 24 games before that, Washington absolutely destroyed the Bruins. The Bruins went 5-13-6. Or at least I guess this is the last 24 games in general. The Caps outscored them in that time frame 74-51. Shout out to Braden Holtby, who was the cause of many, many nightmares for a long, long time against the Washington Capitals. Absolutely hated it. In this game, Garnet Hathaway boarded Brad Marchand to check from behind right in front of a referee. You could not be any closer to this referee without making actual contact with the referee. He had perfect sightline to it. He didn't call the penalty, but the center ice official saw it, and he called it a 2-minute minor for interference on a play where Brad Marchand was injured. He will miss at least the next game. We do not know how many games Brad Marchand will miss currently. Brutal, brutal hits, and wouldn't you know it, no subsequent look, not even a look from the Department of Player Safety. Between that and his snub for the All-Star game and how vocal Brad Marchand has been, as we've talked about already today, that's all.
He's not playing the old boys club game. He's doing his own thing. He's being his own person. Can't have that.
Just a big piece of shit with his personality. How dare he? Just brutal, man. Like, just brutal. There's just no excuse for it whatsoever. There really isn't. I'm obviously not completely caught off guard by the DOPS dropping the ball, but at the same time, my God, just ugh. And at the same time in that game, I do want to mention it, one of the hits of the season, as Tom Wilson absolutely freight trained Anton Bleed. It was clean, but devastating. Bleed's also going to miss the next game. So in the meantime, Jake DeBrusk, who did score in this game, as I mentioned, will be on the top line with Patrice Bergeron and Craig Smith.
Sorry. Top line. And it includes Craig Smith and Jake DeBrusk. Poor Bergeron. That's pretty rough, and that just goes to show you kind of how thin the Bruins are right now in the scoring department. Looks so familiar, though.
Their presumed lines from Cap Friendly 7 hours ago, heading into their next game on Saturday afternoon against the Winnipeg Jets. Top line, DeBrusk, Bergeron, and Craig Smith. Bergeron has 31 points in 36 games. He's still Bergeron. Craig Smith, as I've talked about, I like him, but he has 13 points in 30 games. That is not good enough. You are on a 30-point pace for $3 million.
Need at least 40 for $3 million, I feel like. Or to be a great defensive player, which he's not.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake DeBrusk, making almost 3.25, has 12 points in 32 games.
Oof.
Jake, if you want that trade out of Boston, here's your chance, buddy. Have a good couple of games if Marchand's out and maybe get that value up because, again, it's not working. Their second line, Taylor Hall, 26 points in 37 games, not too bad. Still not quite what I'd want for $6 million, but not bad. Eric Holla, 14 points in 36 games. He is also essentially on a 30-point pace for about $2.5 million. And David Pastrnak, 34 points in 37 games. Now, that second line has been pretty good. Hall and Pastrnak together has been pretty good. It is a little bit worrying, of course, to see Eric Holla as the second-line center that's helping that line work out. Nick Foligno, 6 points in 24 games at $3.8 million.
Yikes.
For those who can do the math, that is a 20-point pace for $3.8 million of Nick Foligno, who is under contract through next year. Charlie Coyle, 16 points in 37 games. He has been moved into more of a defensive role, but still 5.25 for just over 30 points for Coyle. And then Oscar Steen, who is making close to league man, 5 points in 12 games. We call him Quadzilla. Feel free to look at the some of the pictures of Alex Steen's quads. It looks fake. I will be honest.
You mean Oscar
It looks
Steen?
fake. Yeah, Oscar Steen. That's what I said.
You said Alex Steen.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. What are you
The
going to do?
second time you did, yeah.
What are you going to do?
Oh, well.
And then their fourth line is projected to be Thomas Nosek, Curtis Lazar, and Stephen Fogarty. Shout out to Rangers and I think Sabres fans who know Stephen Fogarty as the guy who played in Hartford or Rochester. Yeah, I'm worried, man. I'm a little bit worried. Just a little bit. It's a bit concerning. Jake, please have a good game. The Dallas Stars on Thursday beat the Buffalo Sabres 5-4. My favorite, Jason Robertson, 2 goals, up to 15 on the year. I love this kid so much. Rupe Hintz is 16. Tyler Seguin had a 2-goal game for 12. The Sabres in losing, the stat that I saw that to clearly, like outright designed to agitate Rangers fans, Rasmus Dahlin scored his 7th of the year. Dahlin has more points, he has 26 in 40 games, than Lafreniere and Capo Caco combined. Lafreniere has 11 points in 38 games. Capo Caco has 14 in 36.
Dude, Lafreniere, man, if he doesn't start showing signs of improvement... Like, for a while they got going, and then they just, stopped again?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, we had talked about a slow start, and then they picked it up, and we're like, oh, man, don't we look foolish? But now you look, man, we're approaching that midway point of the season, and it's a 30-point pace, essentially, for both of them at best.
Like, Lafreniere, dude, first overall. And he was, hailed as, oh, he might be as... He was, supposed to be really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of revisionist history, I feel like, to minimize the hype level surrounding Lafreniere.
I was going to say,
in terms...
wasn't he, hailed as, kind of like a... I don't know. I heard something, from the French Canadiens, oh, it could be as good as McDavid or something weird like that.
I wouldn't say it was that high, but the hype was still pretty far up there. And it's kind of led to this conversation... that I've seen a little bit now from the Rangers fan base in terms of they can develop a goaltender. Granted, you could argue how much they really developed Shesterkin. I mean, he was playing in the KHL. Yeah. He was playing against men for the whole time. But in terms of who they've developed, we'll go back to 2018. 20 games of Vitaly Kravtsov, but it has not worked out. They've gotten some games, of course, out of Keandre Miller, Nils Lundqvist, both look pretty good. That's it. 2017 draft, Elias Anderson. He's with the Kings. Not doing so hot either. And Philip Hedl, who's okay. He's doing okay, but he has 82 points in 222 career games. That's not setting the world on fire for a former 21st overall pick. Their 2016 drafts, Basically nobody. Sean Day, 2 NHL games, both with Tampa. Defenseman Tarmo Rantanen, 4 NHL games. Tim Gettinger, 13. Like, you look at the Rangers draft history, as I think we're good to go. It looked like
Camera's
webcam turned
off
off here.
now.
All
That's
right,
weird.
cool. Yeah, Discord like mini crashed on me there, so apologies on the video side. I'll actually have to make a note of that. Got to timestamp that bad boy. Just to make sure it's not too weird. Point being, though, you look at the Rangers and their lack of development. It has pretty much been since the 2013 draft that they have seen like a really solid kind of return on games played so far. Outside of the 222 games of Hedel, that was the Buchnevich draft. But then Duclair's in there. He hasn't done much, and Ryan Graves didn't play much for the Rangers either. Like, the Rangers draft history over the past decade, if not dipping into decade plus, has been a little bit shaky. And I mean, like I said, you can look at that list of guys that they drafted that aren't there anymore, and the returns that they might have gotten for him, or if they just kind of walked. Like, I mentioned Anthony Duclair. Obviously, they just traded Pavel Buchnevich, which was a mistake. But even Anthony Duclair was traded for Keith Yandel back in 2015.
Ooh.
Yeah, didn't it's been rough. It's been rough for the Rangers, I think is the best way to put that.
Yep.
And it's not looking that much more promising. Like, you know, again, I'm not sitting here saying Lafreniere and Kakko were busts, but they were expected to be able to deliver a little bit more sooner than they have. Now, for the Rangers, they are still atop the Metro Division. So it's working out in a sense. They'll be real scary, but at the same time, I look at that Rangers team and I say, do I think they are legit, or do I think it's great goaltending, given that they've surrendered the 4th fewest goals in the league so far?
Yeah.
And offensively, they're mid-table.
Yeah, it's what it comes down to for me. It's I think the rushing dude's along way too quick. Like Capo Kakko is he's not even 21 yet. He'll turn 21 next month. Lafreniere was like essentially just trapped. I don't know. I feel like they were kind of rushed into these roles. They're held to too high of standards, and this might be shaking their confidence.
Yeah, definitely. For Lafreniere, he was directly compared mostly to Sidney Crosby because being from Rimouski and having the record as well with him. So that might be one way to do it as well. Another thing that may have stunted his development was the closure of the leagues due to COVID and the QMJ and the OHL and WHL. They're all shut down for a little while. And so a lot of players were forced to go over and play in the end because they weren't having the at the time, I believe there wasn't any waive rule to let them go play in the A. I mean, I know later on some players ended up playing in the A. One option that I would love to see NHL teams do is grab these players that are playing dominant in like the Q or the O or the WHL, instead of having them play out there and just dominate over top of them, send them over to Europe. I want teams to use the loan program more often, because there's a lot of different ways to play the game in Europe. You can then, instead of playing over here in North America, I think it would be an interesting pathway to see how players end up changing, or if their style ends up becoming more adaptable and more used to playing against actual grown men in a wider rink, and to see if it have any effect into their development when they come back to North America.
All fair conversations, I would say. I want to mention for the Sabres in that game, too, when the loss, Dylan Cousins ended up with his 10th of the year. Jack Quinn scored his first of the year, his first career NHL goal, and then immediately gets hurt because Sabres fans can't have nice things.
Did?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Currently scheduled for an MRI is the last thing I had seen.
That shot
in
was
regards
so
to Jack
sick,
Quinn.
too. Like, that was a great shot. Quick release. Perfectly played. I can't believe it. Dude, Sabres are literally cursed.
Yeah, this comes from Lance Lazowski of the Buffalo News on Twitter. Sabres GM Kevin Adams told reporters that Jack Quinn suffered a lower body injury during the game on Friday and will miss some time, having an MRI today to reveal severity. So, I said they can't have nice things. The only nice thing they can have, apparently, is the fact that they announced they're bringing back the goat head, baby.
Let's go.
Next season, bringing back one of the best jerseys of all time. For those on the video portion, the lovely goat head. It's coming back. I'm excited, mainly because I gotta be honest, and I think a lot of jersey collectors, I don't know if you had the same opinion, some of these old CCM jerseys aren't the most comfortable things in the world. I think the make of jerseys have gotten a little bit better. These jerseys were great for like putting over a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Shout out to JP Dumont, by the way.
Fuck you, JP Dumont.
God, those jerseys are hard to track too. That is what we want in terms of reverse retro and bringing back jerseys. Now we just need the Fisherman. Bring back the Gorton Fisherman for the Islanders. There's a couple others in there. The Pooh Bear. I do have an original Pooh Bear as well for the Bruins, but bring that back. Dude, it's a license to print money to just bring back these designs and make them more acceptable. I get certain jersey sellers will be pissed that the market might crash, but it'll never entirely crash. People are going to want the OGs. It's a license to print money. What are you doing? Keep this up. Keep bringing back these jerseys. Good on you, Buffalo. I am 1,000% going to get one. 1,000%.
Definitely. Also, Maple Leafs, please bring back the tube sleeve jerseys. Those were beautiful. I love you guys know what the one I'm talking about where it's like the
I think I do,
They
yes.
put
Yeah, the
blue in
tube
another place.
Yeah. They did.
Make
They
a
did
new
good.
jersey, Maple Leafs.
Okay.
Let's get
I had a concept. I had a concept for a jersey that I wanted to get done, even personally. Was the Summit Series Canada jersey? Just that, but it says Toronto. Beautiful.
That was the one with the weird ass leaf on the bottom, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a modern jersey. Have that for your next generation game that they love to do. Where it's like, oh, we gotta make it kid friendly, have different uniforms and all that. That'd be a sick uniform. That'd be sick as an alt.
It would be more creative than what we've typically seen. I'll give them
Yeah,
that.
until they redesigned the logo and it looks like an ass on the bottom of the leaf, apparently. So, yeah, people are like, "Oh, it looks like a hiney." I'm like, "What the? That's a stem of a leaf." God.
The Columbus Blue Jackets beat the Philadelphia Flyers on Thursday. I had no good transition out of that. They won 2-1. Knocks the Flyers down to 13-9-8. This is the second
19.
10-game winless streak this season for the Flyers. 40 games played, 2 10-game winless
So
streaks.
50% of the time they're just winless. At a time.
They have-
I said that wrong, but anyway, that's hilarious.
I knew what you meant.
That half their season has just been horrible streaks.
They have won 5 of their last 25 games.
Lol.
They are currently 14 points behind the Bruins for the second wildcard spot, and the Bruins have 3 games at hand. They're cooked. And I saw this on Twitter. There was an optional team skate today. 5 players showed up.
Ooh.
They've lost 10 games in a row. 5 players showed up for an optional team skate. That team is cooked. The mentality is cooked. They're boned.
Do we know who the 5 players were?
I can try to look that up really quickly while you guys just give your thoughts in general, but it's a rough look, man.
Yeah, that
5
sounds.
players.
What?
Go for it. Go for it. I just how else do you think you're gonna get out of a slump like that? You need to work with your team, and maybe they need a coaching change. Maybe they'll have the same effect that Vancouver does. Maybe that team is just cursed. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe they badmouthed Kale. They badmouthed Nolan Patrick too hard. Now they're cursed as the franchise. I don't. It's just weird to me that only 5 guys show. I get it's optional, but still, you're at a slump. You need to get out there and get back on the ice as much as you can without obviously getting injured. But put effort in.
Now, I'm finding it difficult to find, or at least to be able to 100% confirm the 5, but the names I see being brought up, Claude Giroux, Scott Lawton, Oscar Lindblom, Justin Braun, and Cam York.
Makes sense to me. I know Bronner would be out there and Giroux would 100% be out there. It just sounds to me like the room has just been completely lost. And not great. That organization just needs obviously a complete overhaul. I don't know. That's pretty brutal. So please save.
They fired their coach already this year too.
Oh my God, what is?
Wow.
Yeah, remember
And
they
they
fired
just changed GMs
Absolutely.
recently, didn't they? As well.
Yeah.
Oh my
Heading into the
God,
year,
dude.
they fired Elaine Vigneault this year
Fucked.
and just brought in a new GM. Unfortunately, Cap Friendly is failing me here. I can't quite remember in terms of the new. No, Chuck Fletcher is still the Flyers GM too. Yeah, he's been there for a little bit. So, man,
It's time to trade Giroux.
for Philadelphia, they are fortunate. It is time to trade Claude Giroux for sure. For Philadelphia, they are lucky, and while this is the perfect segue, I'll quickly mention a couple other things before we talk about this, but they are lucky that there is a different team that wears orange that is currently more of a tire fire than they are, or that are at least grabbing the headlines more than they are. That's pretty much the only positive you can say for the Flyers right now.
Yeah.
So to get to that last talking point, quickly I'll mention the Penguins beat the Sens last night. Shout out to Jake Gensel, 21 goals on the year. Josh Norris had a 2-goal game. He's up to 18 on the year now for the Sens. The Preds beat the Jets. Again, someone like Dubois continuing to score. Shout out to Ryan Johansson, who's had a decent little comeback season. He has 12 goals on the year for Nashville. They needed that. He still makes $8 million a season. The Colorado Avalanche beat the LA Kings 4-1. Good news, Quentin Byfield made his NHL debut in that particular game. Shout out to Mikko Rantanen, who scored his 21st of the year because the Avs are gross. The Seattle Kraken beat the San Jose Sharks 3-2. 2 goals for Carson Soucy, while Hurdle and Meyer each scored their 21st of the year. Sin, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, Sharks showed up for the first 38 seconds of the game. And then they got just handled. I don't know why. It just always feels like they play down to these terrible opponents. It's like, why are you playing down to people anyway? You're not even in that great of a position. It just... They've always seemed to
There's
do
not
that.
too many teams to play down against, but they still find a way.
They still fucking find a way. It was just not a great game. And it's the most frustrating thing, like, with their power play to me sometimes, or with these extra man situations, particularly at the end of the game. They do all this perimeter passing just for Burns to take a shot from the furthest point away into the ice, goes into just tons of traffic, and it becomes a 50-50 puck that gets cleared out. I don't understand their power play. Sometimes it looks good, but then when it doesn't look good, it looks absolutely awful, and they don't change it up. Like all they do is like there just needs to be more movement. It's all puck movement while everyone stands still. So the opponents just collapse and it doesn't get anything done. But more than that, it's just there still have yet to really been full like 60-minute efforts from this team, and that's just very annoying.
The Vegas Golden Knights beat the Montreal Canadiens 4-3. Jonathan Marchand scored his 19th of the year. For the Habs, Tyler Toffoli scored his 7th. Mike Hoffman scored his 6th. Michael Pezzetta scored his 4th. Michael Pezzetta has 2 fewer goals than Mike Hoffman, and he's only played 1 more game than Mike Hoffman this season. Everything has gone wrong for the Habs
Love
this
to
year.
see it. Cough.
Everything. They are 8-25-6 and are currently the worst team in the league. With Arizona now jumping up to 10 wins on the year, the Habs are the last team with less than double digits in wins. They have 8-39 games. And Sin, for the Vegas Golden Knights, you called it. Peter DeBoer, head coach of the team, and former Sharks head coach, of course, was quoted in saying Jack Eichel is still a month or 2 away from the Golden Knights debut. Jack, we will see you in the playoffs when we don't have to worry about the cap. That is exactly what that is.
I mean, the bar's been set, and they have every excuse under the sun, even though he's been on the ice. Like, well, it's a neck injury. You don't want to rush back a neck injury now, do you? This is a surgery that's really never been done before. Something's got to change because this cap subversion is only going to get worse from here on out. Now that it's been shown to be successful multiple occasions, it's gonna just keep getting worse, and it's stupid.
And it brings us to the final game to talk about from Thursday night. We had to have this be the main event because why not? The Florida Panthers beat the Edmonton Oilers 6-0 last night. 2-goal game for Sasha Barkov, up to 17 on the year. Verhaeghe's 14th, Duclair's 17th, and Sam Bennett's 17th of the year. A shutout for Sergei Bobrovsky. He is now 23-3 on the year with a .925 save percentage. Panthers looking great. For the Oilers, multiple jerseys were thrown on the ice by the home fans in attendance. The Oilers have not won a game since December 18th. Of course, there was the shutdown involved.
Wow.
They have not won a game since December 18th.
Yikes.
The Coyotes have more wins than the Oilers, essentially since American Thanksgiving, the date November 25th specifically. Don't believe that was the date of Thanksgiving, but essentially, again, it lines up. Connor McDavid has not scored now in 8 straight home games. First time that's happened since his rookie season.
God, I want him to request a trade so bad.
Their next move seems pretty clear. They have waived Kyle Turris, opening up a little bit over $1 million in cap space, seemingly clearing room for Evander Kane. As well, I do believe Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was put on LTIR today. Ryan Marchand of TSN had this to say. My sense is a coaching change is not imminent, at least as of today. It's going to be a day-by-day process. A poor result effort against Calgary, and there likely won't be any choice. As far as candidates, if change happens, Glenn Gulutzan, on an interim basis, seems the most likely.
I don't understand that. If it's not imminent, how's it going to be a day-by-day process? That kind of means that a coaching change could be imminent.
I think he meant imminent as in, like, it won't happen today.
Oh, okay. I didn't understand. Phrasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bottom line is,
Fire.
we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
Yeah.
You literally had a week or so ago, Ken Holland mentioned, we can't fire the coach. We've had so many coaches. It's been the same conversation for the past month. Nothing has changed.
Maybe hire some people who've never coached before. I don't fucking know. Stop getting the same coaches and GMs.
Yeah. What do you even say at this point? Like, Glenn Gulutzan's been the head coach for the Dallas Stars for 2 years. He was the head coach for the Calgary Flames for 2 years. I don't think you coach a team for only 2 years and still get to carry the label of being a good coach. They would have held you for more than 2 years, but he's apparently the backup plan. I don't even know, man. I don't even know.
Who are these people related to? How do they keep getting all these jobs when they're so shit? I don't get it.
So I'm looking at Gulutzan's a hockey DB right now. Played a lot of time. WHL, CWAA.
What's his coaching?
His playing record over here. He played for the Las Vegas Thunder. Nice.
Coaching.
Coaching WCHL Fresno Falcons. That's after he retired as a player, turned into a coach. Did the Las Vegas Wranglers of the ECHL as a head coach for a while. Had some.
Can we get to the relevant ones, Endo?
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought
like NHL record. What's his NHL record?
Not good. Average performance, but just not like good at all. He's never made it out of the first round, just like Maple Leafs. Yeah, not good.
Oilers fans, I don't know what to tell you. You know, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I don't blame them.
They must pay
for the jerseys on the ice, and I mean
the friends.
Yeah,
like honestly, like I'm looking at his coaching record now too, right? And again, 2011 through 2013, like I said, he was the head coach of the Dallas Stars. They didn't make the playoffs either year, and then made round one with Calgary, and then missed the playoffs the next year, and then got fired. And he's been an assistant with the Oilers since 2018-19. This idea of we're at the point where we're potentially going day by day. You guys haven't won a game in a month. I don't care if there was that break through Christmas where a bunch of Canadian teams, if not all of them, didn't play. Man. It literally is we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
Yeah.
Evander Kane isn't going to stop that team from getting scored on and then just visibly giving up. It's not going to happen. Like, that's not going to change it. We have already seen with the Vancouver Canucks. You get a new voice in the locker room, good things can happen. We have seen it with the St. Louis Blues. You fire Mike Yeo, bring in Craig Berube, crazy things can happen. And instead, nothing. And they're just going to stick with this. And at this point, if it wasn't already, it is just a complete indictment on the ownership and the tippy top of the management structure for essentially being okay with this. They haven't done anything. And at this point, we look at the standings, and again, as I mentioned, the Sharks are still second in that second wildcard spot in the Western Conference. The Oilers are currently 6 points behind the Sharks. They do have 5 games at hand.
Imagine having Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and being 6 points behind this Sharks team.
They have won in 3 fewer games, the same amount of games as Vancouver. They are on the same, again, if they win their next game, they'll have the same amount of wins as Dallas. And in general, with their 18 wins, again, games at hand for the Oilers compared to a lot of teams, but right now, as it stands, even with the games at hand, they have fewer wins than Anaheim. Who thought at any point heading into this season the Oilers would have fewer wins than Anaheim, at least in terms of reputation and what they should do and their aspirations? They have fewer wins than the LA Kings. They have significantly fewer wins than Nashville. They have the same amount of wins as Detroit and Columbus. It's an outright disaster for them. There is no other way to put it. Them being towards the bottom half in terms of point percentage, like behind Anaheim in terms of point percentage. We've talked about the issues over and over again. My only hope for Oilers fans is that something changes soon, but I don't know if you can hold your breath. Like, if you're an Oilers fan, you have to outright root for that team to essentially get embarrassed by the Calgary Flames, which that game, if I am not mistaken, is Saturday night. You have to outright hope that your team gets embarrassed on home ice by Calgary, and maybe something will change. But why is Leon Draisaitl so pissy? Gentlemen, we end this show on a bit of a low note, at least for Oilers fans. It is what it is. In lieu of changing to a mightier topic, I'll be flat honest. I'm going to end this show, and I'm going to go watch Anthony Fantano's new video about how the emo fest there is rather sketchy, which I think, Sin, you might have mentioned that yourself.
It's so fucking sketchy. I don't trust it. I'm not even going to. Nah. Like, even without COVID, I ain't going near that shit. Oh, God. That seems like an absolute disaster. Plus, it's put on by those fuckers that did Astro World, so.
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
Good. There's the car alarm.
This is the When You Were Young tournament thing.
Oh yeah, tournament. Yeah, the concert. Yeah, it's sketchy as shit. So I'm gonna go watch that. Kind of forget some of the stench of some of the shittier things we've had to talk about hockey-wise.
Oh my God.
Sin won't say anything because there's a car alarm going off, and it's perfectly fine. You can catch Sin on YouTube, of course, Sin for the Win Productions. You can catch him with me, and sometimes with Endo Mills, over on twitch.tv/, it's still NHL Gamer for now. Of course, undergoing the rebrand to Sports Gamer. But again, check out NHL Gamer every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Sin and I there every day, except for Tuesday. Actually, it did rebrand to SportsGamer.gg, didn't it?
Full rebrand
it
overnight.
Did. It officially rebranded. I got to get used to that. Twitch.tv/sportsgamer.gg. You can catch Sin and I 3 times a week over there doing some lovely esports commentary for NHL 22. You can catch Endo Mills on the Twitch at Endo Mills, of course. And if you're listening to this, I'm everywhere at Tougie24. You know that. A big shout out to our friends, of course, again at Manscaped and at Thrive Fantasy. We will see you all next week. Have a lovely weekend. And for Oilers fans, good luck. Go Flames. You got to do it. You got to root for the enemy on this one. Go Flames.